Okay, welcome back to TFC GE Special 2025. I'm your host Reggie, aka your Chief Financial Coconut, and I'm joined with Adrian.
I'm Adrian, LinkedIn top noise, author, factional CMO, and podcaster.
Wow.
I still love the LinkedIn top noise thing. Yeah. But you're not the only noisy one these days.
A lot.
Right. The rallies have started, so
Yes.
everything has started. Yeah. It's quite intense.
Those are where the noise are from today.
Yeah.
Good noises.
We will go into that. But we are joined with two good friends, Sher-Li and Yuli. For our audience that don't know you, maybe just introduce yourself.
You go first.
Oh, okay. Hi, I'm Sher-Li. I'm the founder of Moms at Work. I am not so noisy unless I have an opinion. Then today, hopefully, I have a lot of opinions.
But you have a lot of opinion. What?
Selected
why you here?
Selected.
Okay.
I'm Yulianna, founder of Lepak Conversations. So I'm also a bit like Sher-Li. I'm usually quite quiet by nature lah. But I think when
When
follow-
the problem touches my
yes.
heart, right?
When I got problem then
Yeah,
you see
then
me
you
come.
And
must
not
say
lepak
something.
already.
Yeah, not lepak.
No,
already.
lepak conversation is a lie. It's not lepak. The
Yeah.
conversation is very
Yes.
intense, right? You want to give our audience a bit of color. What topics have you all covered over the course of lepak conversation?
We started off with the tudung issue, and I think it was so hot that it got the
that's
attention
hot.
of MPs and MUIs and all
That
that. So we've talked about Muslim women's issues, including polygamy, divorce, all these very touchy topics. We've talked about Malay men's mental health. We've talked about Palestine, of course. We've talked about rental flat residents and so many more lah. Yeah. So I think the key of what we do is that we talk about things that people are afraid or feel like a bit taboo to talk about, then we are the ones who talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, now you know what I mean? It's not lepak.
Yeah, it's not lepak. But we try to make it
Very
lepak.
misleading.
Conversation is very intense.
So we make it lepak for you
Yeah,
lah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you think, how I want to my brother struggling with suicide. How? So we try to make it lepak so
Hold a
that you
safe space.
you feel like you can talk about it.
Okay, great. So this is also a safe space.
Yes.
Can talk about a lot of
Yes,
things.
can.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for coming on the show. I got you all in because I think we want to. We at TFC we always talk about the very like work, career, money type of things, right? But the life of a Singaporean transcends just work, or at least that's what we want to believe. Yeah. It's true, right? But it always feels like it's always like work first, then everything is like
Yes.
additional,
Yeah.
right? But actually, I do think there's a lot more cross between like work and life that is the Singapore pursuit lah. People are looking at that.
Yeah, and I think it's changing. I think the younger people, if anything, these elections is starting to show that,
Yeah.
right? The younger sets really are bringing up questions more related to what is there beyond
Yeah.
Yeah.
life,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You talk about mental health and all that. That's the other thing. Do I want to work till I'm mad,
Yeah.
right? And I think this is why this elections to me was interesting because it almost feels like, because I'm always in the DEI sector, right? It's DEI is like the bad word now, right? Since Trump took over,
Yeah.
right? But what is interesting is if you look at it, all these things that are brought up have really been about diversity, and I think that's what's so nice about it. Yeah.
Fair. And I think that's so before we roll, right? So I have decided that every day before we roll, we will ask each other like, what is something the election is happening that caught your eyes, right? And then which candidate has caught your attention, right? So since we have already said it yesterday, we can share more later.
We got new ones
We got
now.
new ones. Always got new candidate.
Of course, we like to start
Yeah,
with
we
our
like to
guests.
hear
What
your-
particular thing captured your attention?
Yeah, this GE. Somehow like rarely start already. So a lot of things capture my attention.
Okay, for me, maybe I would say there were certain groups, certain parties that came out that were almost like representative of a specific demographic group. So this is probably not the nicest thing to say, but there was a group that everybody is like much older, and then you have like a significantly younger age group. So almost like, again, to my point, you can hear all the different voices, you can hear all the people coming up with different that to me was quite significant. Yeah. And also I'll share who caught my eye lah. Yeah.
For me, I'm a Tampines resident. Wow, four-cornered fight. I was not expecting that.
Yeah.
But it's very, very interesting. I think
We have a lot of Tampines
us.
residents.
Oh, we do?
My
Yeah.
family stays in Tampines.
Ah,
so I'm
okay,
voting
okay.
in Tampines.
Okay.
We should do a
Exciting
Tampines episode. Later we talk. Later.
Just nice four corner.
Yeah, just like
Sure, speak up.
Yeah. So I mean, it's interesting because I've always perceived Tampines as a PAP stronghold.
It's
So
true.
now that there's, I think, 3 opposition options, but also a very strong one. Workers' Party seems to be quite popular in Tampines, picking up the pace. So that is something that clearly stands out. But perhaps for me, what is interesting are the independent candidates, and specifically in Mountbatten SMC Jeremy Tan.
Yes.
Why everyone is interesting?
So interesting,
Encik Bitcoin is
Let's not
correct.
propagate this, okay? MS will come and call.
No. So it's not because of the Bitcoin. I mean, Bitcoin, yes.
Whatever, right? Okay, yes,
interesting.
yes.
But it's more because I watched his episode, his interview with on Teh Tarik Walid. And he comes across as having a lot of interesting ideas to existing problems, and it's probably because he's an independent candidate. So I mean, him aside, there's also another young candidate. Where
Anyway, Yuli, I want to let you know that Jeremy is coming this Sunday.
Oh, nice. Okay, I will watch.
You want, you can come also, right? You join in and ask him, question him. Right? Yes. And who else?
There's Daryl Low in Radin Mas.
Also independent? Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
independent.
Independent.
No, I think it's because it's interesting because I mean it's only my second GE voting. So it's interesting to see newer, younger candidates, and especially independent, because then they are not bound by party, and you get to see a lot more fresh ideas. So that is what stood out to me.
Yeah, Daryl, we also welcome you on Sunday. By the way, it's Alex's cousin or something. You know, one of our hosts. Yeah. So please, I will ask Alex. You better ask Daryl to come. Right? So if you're not there yet, please come.
Actually, that's the thing there. The younger voices are very interesting. They are very different concepts of looking at things. So I was going through all the manifestos. I was like, wow, some of the things they think about is quite interesting. It's almost like there's a different perspective, right? And I think this is the meaningful part. This is things that almost like the traditional way of looking at some of these problems, like even, family issues, education. But then someone will come very left field and like, how about we do this? How about we teach entrepreneurship at primary school? Right? How about we give $10,000 Bitcoin, right?
This ancient Bitcoin, a lot of publicity,
Too much publicity. MS says no marketing.
I actually started thinking, do you think this might even be a PR stunt? Because it's so revolutionary, right? And his website was quite well done, from a comms point of view. So, I mean, it was just these things that crossed my mind. Same thing. What is it that's making the young people decide that I'll be brave enough to step up? And what is it that makes them take a different point of view, right? Rather than the more traditional ones that the parties are actually pushing for.
I think we see from GE 2020 the climate has changed, and it's also set up. I think, especially I know it's a bit controversial, but I think Raisa Khan really built that momentum for younger people, younger Singaporeans to be like, hey, actually, there's a different kind of politics that can happen in Singapore.
And a different just having a different perspective is okay. You can bring it up. That I thought was very nice.
I think another thing that stood out to me, I think a lot among younger people, we talk about thrive and don't survive, right? But that is SDP. I was like, what is very Gen Z, huh?
SDP is coming on Monday, so stay tuned. Wow.
So many bombs.
Of course, must drop. Okay,
but introducing the next batch.
Of course, you must let people know that. Then they will tune in. Yes.
But this thing about thriving versus surviving, I think this is where, to a certain extent, you see like even some of the points that PAP bring up, they're still going in survivor mode. That was something I thought, hey, maybe you have not caught on. Young people are looking at beyond this already. Okay, let's even put this back to how they introduce themselves, right? The PAP ones are a little bit more traditional. My family comes from this. There was a lot of
humble
memes,
background.
right?
I didn't want to say that.
I thought I forgotten. Came back today.
But so the humble background is fine. But my point now is this, and I actually brought it up to a friend. I said that I think it's evolved. You don't need to be from a humble background to be able to empathize. There are many people out there who run social enterprises who do amazing things, but they did not come from a humble background.
True.
So the question now is it evolved? Are we also reflecting that with the political representatives that we
Or is it a case they cannot empathize, so they have to talk about humble background?
No, I don't think so. I've met quite a few of the PAP candidates. I would say that the comms people are a bit too old school, policing their speech a bit too much. This is my view.
Perhaps it's comms, PR.
Yeah. But I think if you talk to them on a personal level, they are so much more personable. But somehow in front of the camera, right, and they all have to say the humble background story. Right. So just to echo that, right, I had a thought recently. Allow me to say this. I know it's a bit controversial, but the Buddha was a prince, before he became Buddha. so and there are many, iconic figures that they didn't come from a humble background. And the fact that they were able to think out of the box, it is in itself a privilege, right? So that you can then live out of the system and then you can question the system from that point of view, right? So it's not just
because it's no longer that because I live this life, I therefore know how you feel. Rather more, and I think someone said this to me, at the end of the day, I just know what you can do for me. It's more important that you focus on that, and maybe if you can show me that you are able to think, you're able to come up with creative ideas, whatever it is, right? So that focus should be it, rather than just a humble background. I'm not saying humble background is bad, okay? Please understand, great thing, but maybe take the emphasis away. And if you look at the other opposition parties, the focus was on what I can do for you, what I've done before that I think will add value. So I thought maybe that switch is something that, PAP can learn.
It's a comms, to me, I think it's a little bit of a comms problem, I thought right? So. Because if you go and actually look at the PAP candidates, they're all very colourful ones. They've done this, let that, do that, nice they've done many things. Correct. But somehow the comms strategy is humble background, must highlight my mom.
So it did not come out, right?
It's like, they'll come out there. 10 seconds in, I skip already. So, it gets a bit like, okay, another one. So maybe I hope the party finds more comfort to let their people,
be who
express themselves.
Your authentic self.
And come on the podcast.
Shout out.
Hello, we are like selling koyok every 5 minutes.
So what about you, Reggie? What caught your eye over the past 24 hours?
I want to be the last one. You say
maybe the last one. Well, there's a few things. Of course, I listened to yesterday's rally. The Labubu mention was quite fun. I really enjoyed that. Again, Dr. Chi's speech, always a lot of he can really drive emotion.
He's
really good.
He's really he's really that kind of charismatic. I can't think of a better word, but borderline like cult leader kind of communication style. And it works. I think it works to a certain extent.
Fair. You may not need to agree with his policy, but
he does speak well.
He does have the charisma.
He's a very good comms example.
It's true.
And as I was scrolling through social media to find more stuff to talk about today, I think the one that really caught my attention was someone took a picture of Edward Chia's background.
Edward Chia?
Yeah, one of
I never even thought of Edward Chia.
Holland.
I think it's the
Holland.
timber.
Yeah, Holland one.
So there's mention of how he got started into entrepreneurship. So he said he started like 5-6 years old. He was breeding hamster and then he was selling it.
Wow.
Then some hamster society of Singapore mentioned. Actually, this is illegal. And it just trended.
How about that? How illegal?
I'm like, oh my god.
Wait, why is there a hamster association? Why do we need a hamster association?
Animal rights.
We welcome the hamster association.
Animal rights.
But it trended because of that.
It trended.
Okay. Yes. So it is what it is, So Edward Chia was your call out today. The interesting character that called out.
That's
him or the hamsters? It's more his background, right?
Yeah. But to be fair, I mean, nothing to do with this GE. I heard one of his speeches in Parliament about ESOPs. Right, so giving employee a stake in the business, right? So I think that is an interesting proposition by him, lah. So he did. I'm sure he's not the only one that talks about it, but at least it was very iconic in my head that Edward said this in Parliament, which I do agree, especially in the next round of development as a nation, and the whole global mess, right? So like MNC's probably gonna hire less. At least that's what we hear on the streets, right? MNCs are hiring less, so SMEs could potentially digest very talented people through giving them a stake in the business, right? And not just like a salary, so there's an upside. So that could be a way to kind of like coalesce around more talented people and then grow a next big thing. So that's
which I guess it shows the power of diversity, right? If you come from the standard background, you wouldn't have
He wouldn't have said that. So shout out to you. Can also come. I also welcome. Election busy, never after that. Also,
that's the thing. It's nice to have diverse thoughts.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that if you ask me, this elections is starting to show people are ready for it.
Yeah.
Right? And not extreme diversity where it comes to a point whereby no one else can empathize with it, but pretty much these points that people, these different figures that really they show some diversity of thought. I think that's what we're all looking for, right? So,
yeah, fair. So now my turn, right? Okay, so everybody very positive, huh? So
we're starting.
Let's go.
So I heard the Ong Yi Kang speech, right? Yes. So I'm Yi Kang is doing very well. Or Minister Ong Yi Kang is doing very Yi Kang malah macam my friend. Right? Minister Ong is doing very well on social media. Right? And I know I think he's still using the same social media team, but he's very innovative. When it comes to like reaching out to the audience and everything. So that's great, right? But yesterday he brought out the same trope. The famous line. This is not a game of cards. It's your life and my life. That's the Lee Kuan Yew line, right? And I was like, can we move on from this, right? It's one thing if someone iconic says it. It's cringe when you are not the one and you say it. Of course, he never tried to repeat it, okay? He just highlights, say, remember there was an iconic line in our political history. This is not a game of cards. It's your life and I'm like... It's I think we can move on, right? There are many other things that we can talk about and many other things that are better. As much as we want to appreciate the hard work of the forefathers, which I think is a fair position. Going forward, I think the challenges are different.
Yeah.
We do need to question some of the fundamentals, or at least that's I think what I'm sensing on the ground, and we are kind of like all ground up, right? In that sense, right? So our sense on the ground is that times are different.
Yeah.
Some things need to change, right? And as a society, if we don't move and take bigger steps, this may bite us in a bigger way in another 5 years, another 10 years, right? Problems that are not treated today will snowball. They don't just stay at the same level, right? So I think that's kind of what I hope to hear more of, from PAP. But yes, Mr. Ong, I also welcome you. So we are a very open platform. Everybody can come on and share your thoughts and views. Okay, so that is the fun part of the day. Now we want to move into proper, right? The discussion proper. So usually what we do is the first part is a bit more casual discussion of what's happening, and then we can go into the deeper manifesto, who is saying what later in part 2 right? After we take a break. So maybe for a start, I could try to get you all to share a little bit of your diagnosis of the situation on the ground today, right? Because the framing of today's episode is about career versus life, right? It's essentially, that is like the middle class central problem. It's like we want to do well in our career, but we also want to live a life, right? So what is the sensing on the ground at this point in time, based on amongst your community? Like, is it possible? Is it a reality, or is this like just a thought only? Like, work-life balance is a pipe dream.
I come from Gen Z, right? And Gen
Z don't care about work-life balance. They transcend already.
That's kind of true. Yes. But so we want, that's our ideal, right? But the reality is that even eating out with friends is very difficult. And you see in the news, like even the young are not going out, enjoying nightlife. That is a very clear indicator that things are getting too expensive to the point that youths cannot enjoy their youths. So the concern is very real, and I think I'm very shocked when I hear university students. There's this thing called internship maxing. So basically, I don't like every few months they are doing internships, and I'm like, you're in school, you're supposed to focus on your studies, get good grades, but they are taking on so many internships because they need to build up their portfolio, their CVs, and even then it doesn't guarantee them a job. So I think that concern starts as early as, I don't know but I think PSLE, really secondary school, they might already be thinking of that. But at the uni level, that's what I'm seeing. And among early professionals, they're already thinking about like, how can I get married? How can I get a house? So in a way, there's not even time to think all the way to like getting a house and getting children, because you're already so bogged down by the pressure and thinking, wow, it feels like very impossible. So that, I think, the stress on cost of living is very, very real among Gen Zs and also early millennials.
You're just surviving.
Yes,
Right.
exactly. Yeah,
Not sponsored by
like-
FTP. Not sponsored, must be clear.
yeah.
Oh, it's a good tagline.
Yeah,
lah.
but good
That's
tagline.
probably-
Yeah. So in that sense, I guess if they still want to live up to the ideal of thriving, right, then they search for alternative pathways. So you see a lot more entrepreneurship, young ones starting home-based businesses. So that's the track that people are going down. I think that's the way forward to open up alternative pathways, not just education and then STEM or like all these work in MNCs. I think we need to diversify, especially that the world is so uncertain, economy is so uncertain. So perhaps we can rely more on local economy, build more jobs internally and support the local economy. I think that to me is the way forward lah.
Okay.
So I will see it more from, because I represent the moms. So the mothers are obviously putting their kids through education. And I think the common thing that the moms are thinking about is, what do I want for my child? Because they see this, they see your generation suffering, and then they start thinking...
They forget about us. You are supposed to be suffering.
Yeah, too bad. but because we are at the sandwich generation, right? We are looking after this.
Right.
And so the idea of thriving has never occurred to us. We just have to
Yeah.
survive because we have to take care of the older parents and then the younger kids. But the question then for a lot of moms, I think now the thing is, do I want my children to go through the same process? And then at the end, when they're in their 20s, they're suffering, they choose not to have families of their own.
Right.
So like my teenage daughter always says to me, sometimes I think I don't want to have children. I'm like, wow, you haven't started dating, you already think like that, right? It's quite great. But I found out it's quite common.
It is.
Right.
Yeah.
The idea is that maybe I should just have a pet dog instead because it's more worth it, which a different conversation. I can come back for that. But the key thing is what makes them see or think this way. I think it's what they see around them, right?
Yeah.
And interestingly for me, I've always felt, was this something that was innate, small, like, your idea of success? Is it because you believe success is material, or is it because society shapes you to believe that? So, sometimes I think it's always talked about life beyond grades, life beyond, success beyond grades. But the concept now is then, what is it that is making young people feel that success is something that is measured? So even this internship thing, the truth is you don't have to do a lot of internships. The truth is you should be doing good internships or making those internships work for you. And I think that was lost in translation. And I know this because I was in career service office from 2010 onwards. And back then, the thing we told the students, right, from uni, SMU was, please do internships, because that time don't do at all, right? Now it's do. But then do became not do one, become 3, 4, 5. So this point is, how did something good become something bad? Right. And I think that question is because, is it really something that is caused by society, or is it the individual that then perceive it as success means I need to get as many as I can? But you've lost the game actually, if you think about it, because doing 5 internships to me, and sometimes we're like, were you good at all 5 or were you good only at 1? And if you're only good at 1, then why didn't you do better in that 1? And why didn't that company offer you a job then? Then that would be my question, right? So sometimes I also tell students, please don't follow blindly. Just because everybody does this doesn't mean you have to do the same. Like sometimes people say, I need to do overseas internship, I must. Why? Why do you want to do it? And then the question is, because they say it's good. Then I'm like, who's the they?
Can I see the day?
Can I see the day? Tell me the
And
day.
I always ask who's the they. Then they,
Yeah.
right. So
Yes.
I think this is interesting because I can almost see how this is happening, and the parents are thinking, do I want my kids to become this? I don't. Then what do? Do I put them in a different education system, or do I write complaint letters to MOE to complain? These are all the things, lah.
Amazing. It's like how when the seniors say, oh, my friends say, they're like, who's the friend? Who's the friend? It's like, that friend, So there's this like transparent social construct that somewhere at the back that's just talking to you that you gotta do this, and then you kind of manifest it into a person, right? Someone told me something, but and you can kind of push that conversation to say that even amongst the working professionals, this is happening, right? Like, there was a period of time when you could one income can live, can build a whole family.
Correct.
Now the given is 2 income, right? Because it's the numbers don't add up. It's not ideological, right? The numbers don't add up. And then nowadays, like side hustles is like a given like that. Like our good friend Budget Babe, right? Every day talk about side hustles, right? And I don't diss her for that. In fact, I think she's working too hard. My point of view, but I think she's very energetic about it. So that's fine, right? She's thriving, with that type of structure. But it is to a point where it feels like side hustle is a given, you know. It's not like a good to have anymore. So the Singapore way of life is stacking like no tomorrow, right? And some things are cracking as we can all tell, right? Whether is it the mental health situation or is it like people just not having kids because objectively it's nuts, right?
Yeah.
You have four lah, right? So
He has four?
yeah,
You have four? Wow.
Yeah, and I personally cannot imagine to do it right now in this kind of climate.
what has changed?
The cost of living firstly and the competition. So as you were saying that, I was thinking, actually, if it's a case of kiasunism, then is it something that the students, the wise one, can opt out? But the thing is, you can't opt out because
You can't see the path for you when you opt out. I think that's the correct way of thinking, right?
yes, and also it has become so competitive that I think companies right now who are hiring all these graduates have the expectation or minimum 3 internship. Then I will consider. So you constantly have to catch up and move out, and I think it's a lot of stress for parents. But the good thing is, as I always mention to people, when you hit 4, you're like, okay lah,
Whatever, just
whatever
survive.
lah, whatever, just stay alive lah, just stay alive lah.
What's the story? The first one you're very focused.
First one very
the second
focused.
one you compare.
Second one, because you still can handle it, got a pair of hands. Third one, you stress already because you know one of them is always slip through the crack. But then when you reach 4, it's like
It's okay lah. Don't die.
Whatever. All parents with more than 3 say that.
Okay, fair. So then maybe let's define what is the success that
Wow, this
we
one,
want.
this question is all
Right,
about.
because
What
it's
is
important, right?
success
Before
to you?
we discuss the manifestos later, I think it's important for us to then set the ground, like what is good, right? What is the Singapore way of life? What is success? What is good life here in Singapore? Because if we cannot actually have a barometer to define that, right, then it's very hard to say like, oh, this policy is better. It becomes very tinkering. Everything is very tinkering, right? So what do you think, or what is the aspirations on the ground? What are people saying that, oh, this is the life that I can stand by, you know, that I actually will enjoy?
I think maybe the value of being self-assured, right? So what, like, yes, we can define it as, okay, maybe self-assurance is the thing, but how you choose to define it, if you believe in it, I think that's enough. I think that helps because that means that there are a lot of alternative pathways, and as long as you're confident in it, then that's fine. Because the world is always changing. The barometer will always change. So I think it's more important to be self-assured. And I think I think in my head, right, if there is a lawyer who can be confident and say, I'm a lawyer and at night I'm a clown or I'm a magician, right? There's such contrasting things, but that is accepted in society. I think that's my ideal.
But why wouldn't that be accepted in society?
Because it's like, oh, you're a lawyer and therefore you're prim and proper, but then why are you a magician? It's an identity, like it's confusing lah, and people don't like to be confused. I
just feel that if the lawyer also need a side hustle or cost of
No, but so that's precisely it. So that's how we're thinking, right? Oh, you're already a lawyer, then why do you need a side hustle? But
what if his side hustle gives him purpose?
Exactly.
So and I think this is the thing. So sometimes I find that a lot of times when you ask people, okay, I can't speak for all, but again, when you ask parents, what's your definition of success for your children? They can tell you, right, it's going to be this. Hopefully they will find a job and gives them a comfortable life, they can have kids and so on and so forth. But I've often asked, and as a mom, as a parent, I think you will agree with me that at the end of the day, what you really, really want is for your child to be a happy person, that they find some purpose in life, that they find that every day is meaningful, right? And I think it's quite philosophical in that sense. And sometimes when I talk about it, people look at me like, you're so cray, right?
Okay, put it this way, right? I think the nation is at a crossroad that it needs a philosophical rethink
because
what is good. Then the policies will flow on its own. Right? That is my point of view. We have a very good public service. You know, they know what to do.
Efficiency is the thing.
No, and it's not just efficient. We scoop the best people to join the public service. The question now amongst a lot of the policy builders and public service, right, is what are your assumptions and your definitions and what are we going for? Which is why the lines are very important, right? What are we deciding on is very important. So it is a philosophical discussion at this point in time, right? I think that's a fair
because
a fair
if you were to ask me, then I think that lawyer is a very successful person, even if he wasn't the best lawyer, he wasn't earning the best, but perhaps he is finding purpose in life. And there are a lot of people, the truth is I always say this, it's a blessing if you find a job that has purpose and you feel fulfilled. but many of us actually find a job. Okay, I can't say because I'm very happy, but I know there are many individuals where they will tell you it's not the perfect job for me, right? And then you ask them, but what makes you happy? What makes you feel fulfilled? And they find fulfillment in other things. So to me, more than anything else, why this has become a stretch is really because if your job takes up all your time and your job also doesn't give you purpose, right? You have no more time left to find your purpose. There are people I know on weekends who do amazing things. They go out there, they go give, sports training, what have you, something that they find purpose in. And I think this is where this generation increasingly want that, which is why they talk about work-life balance. Why is it work-life balance is not a strange concept anymore? Our generation, we didn't understand it. We were all still, at least me lah, I'm very old. But
yeah, and that's not what I'm saying. I'm trying to understand. I'm not saying, okay. I'm trying to
but you agree with me, right? Our time, we don't talk about it because we didn't understand this concept. We didn't know what that work was supposed to, where we found happiness was through purposeful work. But as we get older, we realize that, right? And then some people, sometimes in the middle of everything, tons of lawyers stop work. Sorry, Law Association. But a lot of lawyers stop work. Females, at least for sure, I know they stop because they look after children. And then when later on, they don't come back to the exact role. They go start baking, bakeries. A lot of baking shops are started by lawyers, right? But you see,
banker and lawyer, those are the two bigger feeders into F&B.
But the question then becomes why that? And it's really because I'm still searching for that purpose, that meaning in my life, right? And I think we are at that junction already. So it's worth considering.
So let's take a jab at this, right? I know this is a difficult question. So what do you think is the role of the state, right, in such a definition of success, right, where you can define your own success, you can try all sorts of interesting things, and not be bogged down and bound by maybe some of life realities, right? So where do you see the state coming in? I know this is a difficult question.
Yeah, it's like a wish.
I know this is a difficult question. Yeah, and I've asked many people.
I would ideally want the state to be a bit more removed from the ambitions of people, right? So the state's role is to be okay with this diversity of ambitions. Yeah, I think that's ideally what I want to happen.
So at this point in time, it's not. Is that what you're saying?
I feel like, MOE basically creates this pathway where, the most ideal, right, is you go on to poly or JC and then you go to university, you get a degree and then you get a good job. So that is still the pathway that most people aspire towards. But if MOE or other ministries let go of that and be like, okay, you are free to do whatever you want as long as you're still contributing back to society. I think that's a more ideal way.
I think I need to speak up for MOE here a little bit, to be fair.
Right.
We are objective platform.
Yes.
So I give the other side of it. They have actually over the years, and I sit on that committee that talks about multiple pathways of success. We talk about how if a child chooses, say, a more artistic career, or they choose to go to ITE, there are different ways for them to figure out what they want. And actually you see this a lot. Increasingly, the career service officers in schools, in ITE or poly or JC, university, everywhere, they talk about this. They go down to the core, which is what are your skill sets and what you want. But I can also see the challenge that the education ministry is facing, because you have this, and then you have the world of work telling you, we need AI, we need data crunching, we need all this, and we don't have. We don't have means that where we go and hire foreign talent, which starts another conversation of why are we hiring foreign talent, right? So you can see to a certain extent, I think as a state, it's very hard. It's trying to give people on the ground that leeway to say, pursue what you want because it will bring you the success you want. But the problem is, on the work side, the companies, whether they're small or big, they say the same thing. I want this. Like this morning, I just saw something about green skills. I can see this already. There's going to be a lot of green skills, diplomas, and right. But
what is a green skill?
Yeah. I also am learning. But apparently, it's going to be something that's needed in every job. So you can see how education, for what it is, has two purposes. One is to help the individual thrive and find what they want. But education as a state is also about, what do we need as a country? And we're unlike other countries, at least my point of view is, our people are our resources. So unfortunately, we still have to go back to what is the world needing from us that we can provide. So I sometimes see it and I'm thinking, wow, I wouldn't like to be in, of all the ministries and all the ministers, I always say, education in every country is attacked. Maybe not in US now, but everywhere else you'll be attacked because you can see the two sides fighting for it, right? My pet peeve is smaller classes, right? Smaller classes have smaller classes, but I can see
that's a WP's platform, right?
Yeah,
Smaller classes.
Yeah, it was there, and I was like, oh, I like this.
Later.
But
stay for part 2.
Okay, part 2.
Must lead the people on.
Okay, stay for part 2.
Yeah, stay for part 2.
but you can see this, right? Like the challenge of the state. So that's why that question to me was so hard because I thought, how then as a state are we supposed to do this? Do we help the individuals define what makes them feel purposeful and achieve the success they want on their terms? Or do we also listen to what we need as an economy? That's my point of view. I could be wrong, yeah.
But this is something that even during my time, we also face the same thing when we were first out of school. Most of us have no purpose. We just want to get a job, start living, hopefully quickly move out of the house, have our own place and all that. Yeah, there are also people that we compare with our friends, or this one more successful, and so on. But I think a lot of people will still just carry on with their life. And if I look at my parents' generation, they also lucky don't care what. The father bus driver, mother housewife, then just continue. They continue.
But I blame social media. Social media has made envy a big thing. Right? So now, our time, we don't know that our friend is successful until the next time we have class reunion, then they tell you, they flash you the card, then your card you put back, right? But now
your card you put back.
Yeah, now it's it happened to me.
Sorry.
But now there's LinkedIn. I mean, it's a great platform, but this, it's very much in your face of what is good. And I think young people always tell me social media will tell me in a way how well I'm doing, right? Which is quite sad, but we can't undo this. So the question then becomes, what can we do then?
And that is also isn't something that the state can come into.
I don't know how they can do that unless you control what you can have your own.
It's quite difficult.
You know what I mean, right? But you can't. So
So I want to push this a bit to say that, okay, so I did an interview with Sean. I know some of you all have went to listen to the episode that I did with Sean, because as I shout out in the live, I see the numbers at the back moving up for that podcast. So please go and listen. I think Guy is a good chap. He managed to take on some of the questions that were difficult. Right? So, I mean, you come on TFC, you expect difficult questions. So I think he managed to take on some of the questions. But there's this one part that I think could be further elaborated, because my thought process is this. Okay, now today, the government of the day, and in fact, not just the government of the day, but every single opposition or alternative, is moving down that path of like, oh, you can define your own success. Okay. In fact, the others are probably even further, right? So PAP is only slowly getting around this idea, and then the rest are already like, oh, leaps ahead, right? So everybody is trying to say, oh, okay, you can define your own success, be yourself, whatever, right? So the whole spiel, so with that, right, then the question is, is the state gonna take care of certain things, right? Like, because if the market is still there, the housing market is still there, the education fees are still there, the healthcare cost is still gonna be there, then objectively, right, it's not real, right? Like, I cannot be like just boothing, like, I know Gen Z is like boothing, right? Yeah, I learned this term, right? I cannot be like boothing every day and expecting to build up a viable, life in Singapore by sheer fact that things are expensive. There is the house, there's the healthcare, there's education, there's all these other things. So if the open market for all these things are there, and the state is not ready to come in to provide more, you know what I mean? And to kind of like protect more people from the pains of the market, which just keeps profit seeking and make more and more and more, right? So that's how things work. Then objectively, it is just story. Only a small slither of people that have gotten their basic of lives sorted can truly thrive. Right? Because then now they're like, oh, okay, then you ask them what they do. So, I did this. Oh, okay. So they had a crazy career in first, I think that's the story, right? There's a crazy career in the first 10, 15 years of their life, lawyer, banker, whatever, trader. They all do very well. After they're done, then they're like, okay, I'm done.
Now I can chill.
And then now I do all sorts of weird things. That is that story But I really don't see the other stories of like right from the start. You do your own thing, you know, like just try lah, just try. Artist starving one,
Be a
really
K-pop
starving.
singer. This is a new one. K-pop singer.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know. That day I saw some people at the back alley dancing the dance. You know, it's very cool because there were all the LED lights. They were set up. It was very cool. I don't know what's the band, you know, like the dance group, but it's cool. But I know they're gonna struggle. It's like, you know what I mean, right? So the realities of life in Singapore and the aspirations of the people is having a very dire mismatch.
Yeah.
You know, that my question is, so where does the state comes in? Right? Like, do we need to, manage housing prices even more? Do we need to do national insurance? Do we need to, which we already have some sort of issue life, previously we didn't. And I'm sure there's a reason why more and more people like CPF. Because CPF has updated itself, okay? So 10 years ago from the return CPF shit, until now.
I saw that video.
Yeah, it has moved on. I mean, as election comes in, all the memes will float around, right? So there was a period of time, the return my CPF thing, and that period of time, the old CPF system has all sorts of problems, and it has caught up, whether is it MediShield Life, whether is it CPF Life. There are all these systems that have caught up, and in some ways it is, the state shadowing, like, taking more responsibility from that front, and is that kind of what we want, Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah. Any thoughts there? Hopefully not too cheap, huh?
I think for me, I have a very specific example of why I say I want the state to let go. Because I feel like the state has been doing a lot and has been doing good work to the point where Singaporeans are over-relying on the state. And my very specific example is that I was in a closed-door meeting and there were 3 ministers and there were, a few representatives. And basically, one of them said that a lot of parents want to defer sex education to the government. And to me, it's something so personal. Then so if you want to defer everything to the state, right? What is your role as a parent then? So I think that's the very specific example that I can give about where I want the state to let go, which is very personal, private issues. Pathways, educational success, all these, I think the state should still have a stake in it. But and I think the issue is that there are so many new considerations that are coming up. Sex education, gender, consent, all these new terms that I think parents are also struggling with. But I don't think they should defer it to the state, because I think the state has bigger issues to worry about, like you said, housing and jobs and economy. So that's where I see the state needs to let go a bit of that. But it's not on the state's part, right? It's on the Singaporeans' parts to let go.
Actually, that is an even bigger discussion about how far should jurisdiction go. Right, there was a period of time with Louis talking about like secondhand smoking, and then I think some of the MPs, I cannot remember who, was talking about the surveillance system that they set up to like so-called potentially track the people throwing things down, all that. So that is then there is a philosophical question around like, so where does the jurisdiction of the state stop, right? Like, is it like my own house is my own problem, like that whole thing. It is a big philosophical question. It's quite chim.
But I like what you say about how, maybe the state doesn't need to step in for so many things, because to a certain extent, so even like, I think last year there was a list of guidelines on teaching parents how to what I considered correct behavior. And I remember reading and I was laughing so much. I was like that also must teach. But apparently, the response was people actually didn't know like what was age appropriate to continue bathing a child and things like that. But there were people who didn't know. And I was thinking, wait, like really? So it was interesting for me because I thought, like you, I also thought, how much hand-holding are you going to do? But when the response was, oh, people didn't know this, then I thought, after that, actually we should hold a lot of hands, right? But this is an interesting point. So it's something where I also feel I think they're struggling with this, like the whole MSF, a lot of the things they come up with is all this where, even the families and things, what's considered a close-knit family, how do you communicate with your child? But it's interesting because then the question is, how come we are introducing these things? Is it because we've seen something that's happened? And actually I always ask them, why are we doing this? And then they will show me, these are the kind, see all the family challenge cases that we've had. Then I think, oh, so I mean, because it is taxpayers' money, you also don't happily go and create some guideline, some project, unless you saw that there was some negative that resulted in it, right? But this is the point. Where then has it been that the state has done too much? And are we a product of the fact that the state has done too much that we are like that? So again, to this point, is it parents don't know how to parent because we're so used to taking mandate from somewhere that now there's no guidebook, we also don't know how to parent, you know? So these were things that crossed my mind too. And every day I actually ask myself, how far is it going to go and where is it's too much, right? You know?
I think for me, one more thing I was very shocked by is just how much tuition kids are going through.
That one, wow.
Yeah.
That one, yeah.
So
yeah.
I don't know how that came about. Like, is it the parents themselves just create this very over-competitive atmosphere?
Parents' WhatsApp group is very toxic.
Yes.
Yeah.
I find that, man.
It's
Wow.
an arms race.
Yeah, the first time I went into one, I almost died. Yeah. It's so that's why sometimes I think, to be fair, some of this obviously is the state's fault, but some of it is also the individual parents, right? Yeah. I feel if you're stuck at, like, you know, there's some WhatsApp groups are just toxic and then some are just really nice and friendly. So it really depends on the poor parent who's in which group, and you can't choose, right? So again, the question is, it's a chicken or egg. How did it come about? Was it because the state created this that caused this, or was it the opposite, right? So, I mean, that's how I feel. I'm sure there will still be people who will say, even listening to this, to be like, no, Sher-Li, it's all MOE's fault. Which sometimes, yes, but some of it's also
the individual.
So this is the part that I think is interesting, right? Because recently there's been some discussion. I think some of the I think was it PSP was talking about potentially having a 12-year true train program or something, right?
Yeah.
So in my head I was like, really? Because a 6-year true train program, which is the IP program, right, already creates a high stakes game at 12 years old.
Yes.
Right? It's a very high stakes game at 12 years old, because at the PSLE you then decide where you
which
go.
Already is so
a few thousand people will get funneled into so-called the best schools, right? And then they will get that privilege for 6 years, pretty much the IP all the way. And then their exit exam will be high stakes also, right? So you know what I mean? And now we want to, like, you know, drag it further forward. 7.
So it will be about where you stay, and it will affect all the other things.
Right. So I'm like, it sounds great, you know, from a theoretical standpoint. Okay, we don't want our kids to compete all there, you know, we want to give them a different way of upbringing, education. So okay. I mean, I understand. If you can really create that, great. Right. But given the existing situation, doesn't that make the stakes even higher at 7? And it's the situation at BTO, right? Same thing, right? You make the, because in the past you just, you know, your two of you very happy, then you say okay, then you sign, next day you can go and get flat, and then you can settle down, right? Now you must find the right person, then decide that okay, this is the right estate, this is the right budget that we'll have in 3 to 5 years time, and then you make a decision. All the decisions are stacked today, so it becomes a high stakes game. So when any time something is a high stakes game, it becomes very stressful, and there's all sorts of optimization that happens. And this is not unique to a particular like Singapore or something, right?
Actually, it's worldwide.
Yeah, it is just how
education is like that.
Yeah, and it's just how the games are run, essentially. I mean, I'm not saying your life is a game, but you know, we just call any system.
I think it's human
game,
nature.
Right? Yes.
Right. This is the thing about education being competitive. Because I used to teach in Japan, and I taught in the middle of nowhere. This countryside, Akita, this prefecture where it's really, really rural. So I thought rural
one of
got
those,
competitive. I was one of those who chose that
very trendy.
I quit my job. But even in a rural setting, they could still define which was a good school, which was a not so good school. And the parents would move house to go there. And I thought, but we're in the middle of some rural Japan and we still need to compete. And then I remember they just told me, because we're all the same. Human beings will always find ways to decide which is better than another. So that was my wake-up call when I realized no matter how we do this, there will always be competition. That's somehow the human nature. Yeah. So whether you move it earlier, later, whatever, you do it primary 3, primary 5, you don't want exam but have other curriculum, or you have exam for entrepreneurship. Somebody suggested, right? Same thing. There will be a competition again. Right? So That's how I feel lah.
Yeah. So I think that's why some of the other thinkers are saying that we should explore the Germany system, right? Where it is multiple pathways to success and not just trying to like ease the competition. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because you can't.
Yeah, you can't. Inherently, you can't. And in a system like Singapore where everything is very expensive and it keeps getting more expensive, it's like a moving goalpost, right? It never stops. So even retirement planning is a nightmare because you don't know, right? Yeah, you don't know. And if you have no certainty, how are you gonna plan?
Yeah.
And if you cannot plan, then macam like what? Right? So there's that whole facet of life in Singapore that is often not discussed because we always end up in the technicalities of like, should you change this? Should you adjust that? We add this, minus this, when actually in some sense it is a philosophical discussion.
But that's really been the current system.
Yeah.
Like if you look at MOE, everything, right? I changed PSLE. Then I always say, but why don't you just remove it? Because I personally think it's because if you remove it, there'll be another competition that was set in, and they can't predict what that competition is. So for now, you might as well just have the goalposts, because it's really that case, right? They introduced DSA, everything, remove exams, remember? Then the parents go and create exam tuition center, charge money for taking exam, which I refuse to sign $60, right? So my point is, whatever you do, these are all just like patches trying to figure it out. So it's a bigger change that needs to happen, and I don't know if that can happen.
And just to add, right, DSA, I was a DSA kid, right, and I was the only one that was in the DSA without private lessons and all that. Everyone else had truckloads of private lessons, right? And since then till now, the game has totally changed.
Even worse,
right? And it's gotten so worse that certain enrichment programs have DSA programs.
DSA prep, huh?
Yeah, DSA prep. I was like, oh my god!
How to answer interview questions.
So wealth is intervening in our public education system. So there's all sorts of things that are happening. So yeah. Great. That was a great first layer. I love how philosophical and intense it is, right? I think we will have more discussion after a break. So we join us after this. We will begin all the manifesto discussion of all the different parties. What did they suggest? What do we think about it? So yeah, meanwhile, give us a bit of time. We will take a break, 5 minutes. 5 minutes. We'll come back. Okay, we'll see you all. Thank you. Bye-bye. Awesome. Welcome back.
Yes.
So once again, I want to repeat that if you are on our Instagram for some reason, you should look on YouTube, right? YouTube is for optimal viewing experience. Best experience. We got a whole bunch of people managing all the cams, so that is the best, right? We haven't figured out the Instagram thing, right? Maybe one day Meta want to kind of teach us, right? Because integration got all sorts of problems. But so yes, welcome back to our TFCGE 2025 special, where we want to focus on the policies, right? So part one, we had a little chat around how do we define success, all the big ideas. Can be a bit philosophical, but I do think we are at the crossroads. We do need to do that. But now this part is the fun part, right? We are gonna deep dive on the different manifestos, at least on the more like social, family, education, those type of things, which honestly it doesn't I don't really care about. I mean, TFC always care about the heavy things, right? The housing, the retirement, the insurance, the jobs, all those things. But we are not simply creatures of work, right? So we want to be able to bring in other facets, and that's why
everything is connected.
Everything is connected. That's why I'm very happy to be joined with Yuli and Sher-Li back with us to discuss some of the policies, right? Hopefully add other color to the TFC usual discussion, right? Because always work, house.
But those are important.
Important. So everything is important, right? That's why we are here to talk about it. So maybe for a start, anybody wants to roll, what are the most interesting policies that you've caught amongst all the major party manifesto that revolves around these things, work life, the judges one, all that I know is interesting, but they are not in the...
the Bitcoin, the AI. Okay, we won't talk.
Or like even the
Sunday he will talk.
Sunday he will come.
Hey, go ahead first. I'm still scrolling. There's too many.
There is a lot.
It's a lot, which is a good problem.
Yes.
Yeah. But the one thing that stood out to me is in People's Power Party. The party aside, just the manifesto that stood out to me is IVF subsidy. Yeah, because I mean, low birth rate is such a big problem, right? But we don't talk a lot about infertility issues and how difficult it is for women to conceive.
That is such a Lepak conversation.
Oh, is it? Very Lepak.
Not Lepak.
It's a very practical approach.
Yes,
I know a lot of people. My wife has a lot of friends who really struggle to have kids. And will spend so much on IVF, fail again, to the extent they have to, I have to do in JB, do in Hong Kong or whatever, because it's too pricey in Singapore. And they really want to be parents. They want to help the state bring up TFR. But they cannot.
So they're on the mission.
On the mission. But no bullet. Got some issue.
We do together.
No, but it's a very valid point. And I agree with you. IVF is definitely...
It's very expensive.
So what is their proposition?
Let me see.
Yes.
I have to pull out the
because to be fair, I think the government of the day has increased subsidies for IVF. Quite a bit. I think we did an episode. I love how we did an episode about it.
Brought it up, right? More financial support for couples facing fertility issues.
So for the specific party you mentioned, IVF should be 90% subsidized for eligible couples under 40 years old. Remaining 10% can be fully payable by MediSave.
That sounds like a PAP policy.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I think that's a very valid and it's actually quite meaningful because it does solve out the problem of TFR, right? I think we are really.
So the government has implemented.
I think the government has something along these lines, right?
That and also for women, egg freezing,
right.
Like that. There's a lot of different. But I think maybe the point is more can be done,
right.
And at the moment, still not yet. I feel, and it is really costly.
It is
very costly.
Correct.
Yeah.
So there's that part of the discussion. I think we did a podcast about it, so you all can check it out. The IVF, IUI, the whole thing. What's the cost? It's on Choose with TFC. As usual, what's the cost? So I always care about the money, but yes. So I don't dispute that, but I think that it is not as far flung. I think the government of the day has already coalesced around this idea. Yes. Any other things that caught your eyes?
For me, it was the implementation of 5 days paid childcare giver support leave for working adults with additional financial support for full-time caregivers. This was quite vague. I think it was brought up by NSP, but I think this was the interesting thing.
Why all the kiki kwai kwai party come here?
Because diversity.
Interesting. Okay. Cannot prejudge.
I think because of that, they came up with more radical ideas.
Okay.
And I think party aside, like we're talking about the points, right? I think this is something that has been increasingly brought up. A lot of help for mothers, right? And obviously, because the idea is they add to the population, so that all makes sense. State helping and obviously helping, but there increasingly are more caregivers of elder parents, and sometimes they're not married. They choose not to be also. They don't always get the same support, and financially it can be a burden for them because they might be the only child of their parents, or they can be the child that is willing to support. So I think this point about having more support financially and also in terms of in the workspace, encourage more firms to give not childcare but caregiving leave. So you very often you see this in companies when the moms can get it because parental leave, and then the government has been saying, but someone who's looking after like an elderly parent who really needs help, they can struggle because they ask for it and they don't have. So I thought this was a really good point. So whoever gets to look at it, please look at it.
Which I think Louis, if I'm not wrong, has.
Although
he stepped down already.
Yeah, but he has been advocating this for the longest time.
So please have more people look at it.
You look at how often kids fall sick. You kena one hand, foot, mouth. That's it. Yeah.
So he talks a lot about for the parenting, but I'm talking for the children of the elderly parents. This number will continue to increase because increasingly we also at Moms at Work, we have a lot of women who write in and say, I'm single, I'm struggling the same thing because I look after my dad and mom. Both parents are my support. So we tell them, okay, we help you, we give you this advice, but we can't do beyond this because we sort of still represent moms, and they feel a little bit alone. So financially they struggle. Work-wise, they also struggle because they need all that support, that care, right? They also need the leave. Then there's no leave unless you're MNC will give you all this kind of special leave. But SMEs are like, sorry, like government don't have such a leave, so what are we giving to you? So I think that's something to me is a good wish list.
Okay, fair. But I also don't think it's very radical.
Also
from my
radical,
point of view, it's
radical.
not too far, right? The PAP government will coalesce around it quite
So they're listening.
Yeah.
And call it a different name.
Yeah.
Need to call it a different name, no choice.
What about you? Any other interesting things that caught your eyes?
I think if we are still on the same page outside of Encik Bitcoins, because I have to skip
Encik
him.
Bitcoins one's all very interesting lah. Like
It is,
the 10,000
But it's not gonna happen, right? To be
account.
okay. To be
What's
fair, not that it's not gonna happen. Okay, it's more like it is not on the plate of the major parties.
Maybe 20 years time lah.
Yeah. At this point in time, so any other interesting things from the major parties?
From the major parties.
Yeah. I mean, we're not partisan, but we got to be realistic, right? Because some of these very odd things will never appear, in the...
The education ones were very interesting.
Maybe you can talk a little bit.
The one about starting, we were just talking about this during the break, school starting later. I think the question was always, we don't want to do this because parents need to drop off, right? But parents drop off because they want their children to sleep more, right? I think there's lack of sleep is a big issue leh.
Okay.
I think...
so that's what you hear on the ground?
That's what I hear on the ground. And I know that even recently, because some schools, they will allow one day where the school starts a bit later, secondary school, 1 hour later. And when I first started off, right, my son first had it, I was like, only 1 day ma, what's the difference? Right? But when I told other parents, they were like, wow, that 1 day can sleep in is such a big difference. And actually I noticed it's true. Just that 1 day meant that he was less tired. It was like a break. You know what I mean, right? Like, so I thought it is true. Actually, giving them 1 more hour of sleep is quite a big difference.
But you also mentioned drop off. That means all these kids are studying far away. Because if it's just across the road.
So the thing is I think sometimes parents don't have to drop off, but some parents will choose to do it because if not, the kids have to all fight for the early bus, morning bus. If it's secondary school, primary school, then it's a bit more... You can see parents will be more protective and all that. And even if they don't, having a later start time is actually beneficial because no matter how you're a parent of a primary school kid, whether they take public bus, school bus, whatever, they wake up means you also wake up. So we are a very sleep deprived nation,
We are very
all this
sleep
mental
deprived.
wellness, finding purpose in life, unhappy.
Maybe that's why they need to find purpose in life.
So maybe that is it, because the start time does make a difference. So I was quite shocked to see it, but I also thought it is true. On the ground, that's what we all see.
Why are you shocked to see it?
Because I didn't think it would be a manifesto. I thought it's something that is brought up, in casual conversation, because we always say it. But then when it appeared as a manifesto, I had to double check. Is it real manifesto? Oh, it is.
It's a Workers' Party manifesto, right?
Yeah. So right. I like that a lot. And I think many people will probably say, that's a good idea. Why not? Right? Yeah.
So if let's say, just to dig a little bit deeper on there. So let's say everybody's gonna start school 1 hour later.
Oh, don't even that 30 minutes.
Yeah. No, it's okay. I mean, 30 minutes, 1 hour. I know there's some difference, but from an operation standpoint of the nation, right? So will it make a lot of difference from a parent standpoint? Now your kids are gonna start school 1 hour late. How will it affect the way you live?
1 hour late. Number one, I don't have to wake up so early. Number two, again, to your point, maybe I don't have to fetch him to school. I don't have to drop him off, because now he's got more time also, right, to travel. And the key thing is still back to his well-being. His well-being means that my well-being, right? Less, So
He's very
It's very true. It's very
as
true.
a parent, unfortunately, when you get married one day, But my point is really this idea that there's more benefits from having a late start time than there are consequences.
I think one argument I saw online is that then there'll be more congestion, because the students might go out and take the buses and MRTs at the same time.
I think that was the reason why they didn't know. But if you do it 30 minutes, I think then it's fine. Now, most of the kids are really out of the house before the sun rises. So if you think about it, just a 30-minute difference. So instead of 7:30, 8 o'clock or 7:50, then you can actually see it will shift. But the 30 minutes for a child on a daily basis is quite a bit. Yeah, that's how I feel. I mean, like I said, I used to teach overseas, right? Their start time is close to 8. And Japanese go to work very early on. The mothers also wake up together. Their well-being also dependent on the child. So again, that point is, if we can start, why not, right? And I think also nowadays kids stay on in school till very late. It's not like our old days where 1 o'clock go home already and everything is okay. But now 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. It's coming out. I remember podcast. But it's true, right? I think so. Give all that in place. I think it's a good idea.
Fair. And these days, I don't know if it's because I've been out of the school system for too long, but in the afternoon I will see students everywhere. Like it's not like
doing productive things or non-productive.
Also, I mean, all sorts of things. You'll be like, why? Maybe not even afternoon. Like 10 a.m. Why got a student here?
Let's go Ponteng.
You should be in school. And no, you know what I mean. Like, it's not just like 1 or 2. I mean, Ponteng was those times, right? But now I feel like even the school, I'm not as updated, but I feel like there's a lot more activities that are happening. That it's not just like school.
That's also the
anymore.
Teachers. I think sometimes, to be fair, that later start time also will help the teachers, because the teachers go before school starts. So I mean, I think it's better .
So you will later start time affect your vote?
Wow. Big question.
I mean, ultimately, this is a G.
For me, less so, because my kids are moving in the direction of self-independence. But if I were a parent of a young child, this might be something where I think, hey, that's a really good point.
Really? Okay. And smaller class sizes for sure.
That one, yeah. MOE is going to hate me. Minister Chan is going to hate me. But I'll say this, small class sizes is really...
So since you have 1 foot in with them, right? Like, what's the situation? Why don't do...
Because there was a lot of data and statistics that showed that there's no real significant improvement to attention and all that. But I put on more I'm an adjunct lecturer, right? Really, 20 kids versus 30 kids versus 40 kids. Actually, as a lecturer, we really feel the difference. So I can only imagine when you have younger kids, right? Like I also used to teach younger kids, right? 40 screaming monkeys versus 30 kids is very different. So I think all teachers want the same. They want to be able to know each child. If you're a good teacher, you want that. But to be able to focus on 30 to 40 versus 20 to 30, to me, I think it's a big difference.
So research is not conclusive on that front.
So the data was apparently they show that the data, there's no marked improvement or something like that. That the significant change is not huge. Yeah, but
what were we
think,
measuring in those research
academic
outcomes?
Well, possibly I can. I think it was mentioned in the papers as well. Yeah, but
so to the minister, the only blocker is that it's not.
No, I think it wasn't just that. If you think about it, we also don't have enough teachers. I think that's another reason.
We also manage schools closing.
Yeah, people always think that, right? But there's also a lot of teachers leaving.
The MOE, so many teachers go back HQ.
But a lot of them
HQ is so big.
Yeah, HQ is very big.
A lot of people.
But they also have a lot of I think they have a lot of exodus, like they will leave and then they don't come back. They join tuition center.
Right.
Because they love teaching.
Yeah. So if you are a teacher...
potentially because they have to wake up so early.
Exactly.
So I think it goes one cycle.
So if you're a teacher, put in the comment section, right? Let us know if the class sizes are smaller, and you can have start work a bit later, will you go back to teach, right? Because I do think it is we are doing ourselves a disservice if we have some of the best educators just out there in the private tuition market making money. Yeah.
We do have very good educators. So I think the idea is how can we benefit them. So even this point about, small class sizes, to me isn't just the benefit of the child, it's also the benefit of the teachers, right? Yeah. So if you look at
which would probably not be measured in the study, I think.
That's why I also don't know what the study is. I have to go back and check. But
MOE, we welcome you once again. Come and discuss this study.
Yeah. So this is something that when I picked up, I thought, hey, this is a valid point. And again, I'm not surprised that it surfaced because these are from the ground, right? People have been talking about this.
And I experienced this firsthand because my kid really struggled in his math. And because he's struggling, but the teachers still have to keep up with the curriculum.
Yeah.
So he just have to cater to the majority. You struggle. Okay, later if I have time, then I talk to you. And then the burden will just be passed to me.
Yeah. And then ultimately, you are stuck in the dilemma that you then pay for tuition.
Yeah,
right?
then I pass to the tuition teacher.
Yeah.
The vicious end.
Well, I think what they started to do was to bring them out into different, some weaker students will come out. But again, my question then is there a simpler system? Why don't we just make the class smaller rather than having to do this segregation? So they have their own justification for it.
I'm sure.
But I don't know whether, I don't know, maybe a few years from now we discover that actually the optimal size is 25 or 30, right?
Yeah.
And then given that now these students are even more, they have more attention issues, right? Because again, social media. So 40 people, trying to get all 40 to pay attention to you is actually quite a tough thing, right, for a teacher.
Okay. Interesting.
I mean, don't talk about kids, right? You sustain 20 adults' attention is also quite
even adult
conversation. Get everybody together.
It's true.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the right to disconnect? I think it's PSP, right? PSP
right
suggested this thing about right to disconnect. Right, I think it's echoing some of the Australian laws. Australians have already put that out to essentially. It's part of this work-life thing, right? Essentially, I mean, you some people just consider it as a work thing, but in actual fact, it is trying to give you some life, right? So give you the right to disconnect. Yes. Any thoughts on this?
I vouch for that strongly because I personally practice that. If it's a weekend or it's after 7, I will not reply. And it's actually hard to stick to that because everyone else thinks it's okay to message you at 10 p.m. On WhatsApp. So I if it's mandated, I think it will help to ease. Because for me, right, even though I enforce that, right, sometimes it still takes me some time to switch off because people are still texting me. So what I do is I put my phone on Do Not Disturb. Then I just don't see the notifications, right? But if it is enforced, I think it will force everyone to be like, okay, after 7 p.m, you go home, you spend time with your family. Yeah.
But do you think companies will feel
big family?
Yes.
So as a TFR, which is the angle. No, I'm just wondering, would companies take well to it, especially like SMEs?
I think that's the broader question about work-life balance then, right?
Yeah, but then do SMEs think about that? See, so this is sometimes I always find very interesting. A lot of policies that are rolled out have very good intentions, right? Like flexible work arrangement, hiring women back to work, But
we chat about that.
But the thing is, a lot of SMEs, tauges will tell you this is not something I can manage because I'm so small. We're such a small team. If it's an emergency, I have to get to you.
Right.
And you know, some SMEs, to them, everything is an emergency as well, right? So I like it from a point of view of an employee, but I can almost see how some of the employers, like those that we work with or, you know, that we see, they will say something about it. Like,
But do you remember in the old days, Singapore was actually operating on a 5.5 day work week?
yeah,
Or alternate
I remember
Saturday.
I was
And when
there.
there
I
was
hated
this
Saturdays.
motivation, I think it was during Goh Chok Tong time, to encourage everyone to go to 5 days. All the SME tauge, same thing. How to? Then Saturday morning, how? But
And also figure out.
Figure it out.
Yeah,
So maybe it would be one of those things where at first it's pushed down and then over time you just accept it as part of it.
It's just behavioral change that needs to happen. I mean, we see with COVID, we've changed a lot of the way of how we work. Right?
It's true. Nowadays, call first.
Yeah.
I will never think of meeting the person first. You know?
Yes,
It's like, let's just do a video
exactly.
call.
Yes.
But now that the world has kind of moved again, right? I start to see people want to meet me like in a sense that they just take it as meet means like meet lah.
Yeah.
Right? Not like meet like call, you know? Like it's just slowly coming back, and I have to be very clear that hey, we're having a call, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Not meeting in person, right?
Eat,
Yeah.
meet.
So it's but it has allowed for such a possibility. Even like talking about proposals and all that, right? These days, you know, it has changed. Last time you must go in and pitch.
No, nowadays don't need. Send in first. You're not interested. Okay, all right.
So the thing just moves really quickly, and you know, it has
But actually, it's that speed also that's making it so stressful.
Yes.
Right? Because no longer can you say, give me 2-3 days, you know, then I'll meet you.
Right.
Now don't you meet already, I just send. So you almost feel like everything is 24 hours. So it's so interesting because the things that have made it better have also made it worse. If you think about it, right?
the things that made it so many words. Yes.
So that's why I always ask. It's always back to the same thing:
It's
chicken
true.
or egg, lor?
It's true.
Which one came first, and how did it end up this way?
In
And
real
that's mindset, lah.
in real life, 15 minutes is 15 minutes late is considered okay, acceptable.
Yeah.
On a Zoom call, 3 minutes late, it's like
It's very bad.
why you so late? You know, so
again, that
sweat,
speed, right?
sweat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, fair. So essentially, it's a good to have. We want to have it, but you know,
The implementation will come with a
Implementation
lot
will
of
come
protests,
with
lah,
some.
for sure.
Yeah.
I think, lah. But I think we need it, lah, eventually.
Okay.
And by the way, right, the disconnect also for schools, lah.
Correct.
So also, please don't write me as a parent. I'm not available after 7. Don't tell me.
Yeah,
my son is
teachers
doing
get
badly.
texted all the time. So teachers get texted all the time.
Teachers also cannot tahan,
that was
you know.
one of the best thing that I thought MOE did. They had this thing where they said our teachers are protected. You cannot contact them after this time, and you cannot be mean to them, lah, basically, because sometimes they treat them like service staff.
But vice versa, can Parents Gateway also don't message me after 7? I get some messages at 11 p.m.
I agree.
I'm like, is it
That's
so
why
important?
this right to disconnect is the whole
Yes, I agree.
also all this is, and these are not people, so it's automated. So can you please schedule it properly on not Sunday night when I'm enjoying myself. Then suddenly, please remember that tomorrow they have that.
It's quite stressful.
Parents feel it, especially
This
the first week
notification-
of first month of school.
Times 4.
I remember at times 2 already. I want to cry. I'm like,
No.
stop writing me.
And I mean from an operational standpoint, I run a small outfit, right? So from an operational standpoint, I understand this thing, and I've learned, right? Somebody told me, so you just schedule your email, schedule your notification, then it just runs. So then you meet into the social parameters of what is acceptable, right? Because I am very high functioning at 6 a.m. You know, but if I send an email at 6 a.m., then
you will have no friends.
then I become one of the ministers.
Yes.
Right? Where people say like, you send me as an early morning.
Unless you impress your boss. lah.
No, don't.
No, but even then, I think 6 a.m.
Yeah. And I don't say the minister in a bureaucracy stance. They really work too hard, right? You look at their schedules, it's nuts, right? So but at least to alleviate other people's stresses, be a bit more conscious about this thing. And I think that is the essence of what Right to Disconnect is trying to do. Right? It's not just a law to say like, oh yeah, you can disconnect. Right? Of course, once a law is implemented, you can litigate against your employer or whoever that you're working with. You know, if they infringe on that. Of course, that is true, but it's the essence of the overall way of life, you know, and all that, which also brings upon. I had some discussion with some of the MNC people that are rotated into Singapore, and they are very puzzled by how much time Singaporeans spend at work. You know, because
Is it?
Yes. The MNCs sound like the high functioning, like executives, right? So those like kena poach here one, right? That type of people, right? So and they were like, Singapore should be a thinking economy, right? That's what you want to do. So for people to think, they need to rest. They need to be able to have time to explore other things, to be creative and think. It's not about the amount of hours that you sit in the office, right? It's not about the amount of replies that you have, right? But and it all boils back down to not just a right to disconnect, but one of the lowest holidays in the region. Horrible, Yeah. So and I remember
Lose to Malaysia.
Malaysia. Okay, we're not always competing in Malaysia. I'm just saying, But I remember, was it Jamus? Jamus brought up Thaipusam, right?
Yes, I saw that about putting Thaipusam.
Putting Thaipusam back.
Actually, I like that.
Holiday.
I think that was more cultural.
Exactly.
Motivation. And that was good. That was good.
And whether is it Thaipusam or other holidays, I mean, I understand why he brought up Thaipusam, right? Because the EW Barker, blah blah blah, they had their whole discussion long time ago to say that Singapore needed to grow, so we need to cut some holidays, so every cultural group will remove one holiday, and all that, right? Okay, so whatever, and then the later part of the speech was that when time is right, we will reinstate the holidays, right? So I think Jamus brought it up in Parliament to say that time is right, right, to reinstate. And then kena shot down lah, right? So
now it's
kena shot down. So and my thought was like, I understand you. If you run the ministry doesn't have a conclusive position. You shoot down your opposition, right? I mean, I understand. Right? If I run the ministry, I'll probably do the same thing if I don't have a different position on it, right? So that's like house view. They're just peddling house view. But truth of the matter is, if we truly want to move our people into the thinking economy and we want to empower more people to be able to do those things, then we need to make, like these things a reality. Right? People need more time to breathe. Right, and need more time to explore other things. Then they can invigorate their minds and be creative. Because, I mean, computers can really do all the things that are repetitive. Right, it's so easy these days. Like the crux of the competition is in creating new information, such that
innovation,
such that you populate the source code, then the source will give you more things, right?
Correct.
So that whole part is already sorted out. So if Singapore at this juncture is still trying to do the more hours, cheaper, wow, we're gonna suffer so badly and we may come out worse. Right?
As Lim Swee says slogan. Cheaper, better, faster.
Really?
Yes.
No wonder he's not around anymore. East Coast. Lim Swee say XMOM. Okay, but anyway, apparently I know a lot of these things. But yeah. So I think in the essence of trying to move Singapore towards thinking economy, towards empowering more people to be able to learn and stay relevant and all that, as much as we are doing a lot of things like, more grants here, try to cover your costs here, all that, great, all those things are good, but maybe it is even to the level of saying that, hey, let's have more holidays, right? Let's give the people, because once again, holiday means there's a right? This is your right. You can take this day off. If your company, force you to work without compensation, or they'll never prior negotiate this thing, you can litigate against them, right? So once again, it's about protecting the people. Right, and maybe it is time we should have more holidays, right? And I'm sure it's consensus. There's no debate here.
Always like more holidays. No one will.
At the start of the year, you always see a calendar of long weekends. Then you start planning holiday.
Even longer break, right?
Even this upcoming one.
Yes.
So and okay, and I think let's kind of square that a bit more, right? It is not to say that it's not just about, everybody would love more time off, of course, right? I think in Singapore, sleep deprived, ultra intense competition, everybody deep down wants more time off. The people that are willing to do that grind, right, it's probably because they're quite well compensated. Right? So they'll be like, never mind I just do it then I will take a holiday in Bali, I will do my turnaround dim sum trip in Hong Kong. People do those things, right? It's a thing. So because they are very well compensated, but they form the apex, which I'm sure a lot of our audience are there. But for many others in Singapore, there are like middle class working professionals that
you need breathing space. That's what I always say. Time to breathe. Time to just think about it.
Right. So that's the part. So whether is it more holidays, whether is it right to disconnect, all those are driving at this broader situation that you want us to be creative, you want us to think, you want us to not compete on cheaper, faster, better.
You want us to make baby.
Yes.
I feel like the citizen has a lot of requirements.
No, but that is the reality, right? Because the system has been stretched to a point that is not working anymore. And the indicators are there. Whether is it TFR, whether is it, mental health situations, whether is it, people suicide rate, all that, all are up. Everything is up. So you already know that the system is stretched. Right, so we have to rethink some of that, and I don't think the government is ignorant. They are making tweaks here and there for sure. So sometimes it's that they need more political power to say like, so we help them lah. Like we say like, you should do this, and the will of the people is an important political power source. It's not just about number of seats in parliament, right? I'm sure we all can attest to this. If everybody wants this and you take a different position, you're gonna get penalized, right? So sometimes I know leaders, I don't know if you have experienced this thing where the leader comes out and say, you say, I will support you. Right.
It's a little bit of this happening.
There is this thing happening, right? And I believe Lawrence, I'm okay, let's be clear lah. I think Lawrence will be the next Prime Minister lah, no doubt, right? Like, as much as the PAP say that, there's no safe seats, but objectively, you look at the slate, PAP will be the next government, right? So, as much as they say this one thing, I believe Lawrence will be the next Prime Minister. Prime Minister Lawrence will continue to be our Prime Minister. So in that vein, I think we also need to help him, to be like, hey, this is what the people want. Right? And then so that he can go and tell the public service, you see, people want this, what? Give them
And he did start the initiative.
Yes,
to the
he
people.
did.
Yeah, exactly. So, as part of our platform, I think we should look at some of these things. Yeah. Any other interesting things that caught yourself that is not from Jake Binkoff?
Yeah, we can say interesting things that are more relatable.
Yeah, more relatable, or like more things that you would hope and appreciate.
I think a lot of it was about really trying to help families with children to be able to financially survive. Yeah. So I think that is the common thread throughout. Yeah. So it's almost feeling that if you want, and actually increasingly you see this, the last budget, right? I mean, we saw that the idea is that we're trying to encourage more babies, and we're telling people it's okay to have big families, and how are we going to help you. But what was interesting for me was, I think some of the points brought up from some of the other parties, right? They were very clear cut, like, just a very blanket statement, like, we'll just help all families. But I think it can be fine-tuned. Like, can we entice it such that, not just help all families, but families who say maybe have only one child, two child, to entice them. So I think there's some here that is useful, but maybe potentially to be further developed.
Yeah, I think MSF already quite developed on that front. Yeah, but it's not just them, right? Like we've established that there are many other moving parts that need to align.
It's actually all of them, it's MSF, MOE, MOM together, tied together. Yeah. Because they will keep on saying this is the reason. It's education. That's why I don't want to have kids. It's because MOM does not have good laws. I have to work very long hours. So there's always this cycle.
Of course.
It's obviously you're trying to do the best you can.
And there's also the space constraint, which is true, right?
Space constraint?
Like when I shifted out of
Sorry, I forgot what I thought Josephine Teo's point, but I cannot.
It's not.
I also thought about it.
That
I think the meme is floating around, I'm sure, somewhere. Okay. But when I shifted out of Singapore and based myself in KL, right, I really had so much space that I had to like, what can I do with this space? So I allow myself, like I was one day just lying on my bed, then I suddenly like bounced. I was like, I got a lot of space, Wow. Where are my things in the wardrobe, right? I can put it out there. So then I set out a corner here for reading, which I've never sat down there ever.
Okay, you're calling out the space envy.
Yeah, exactly. And no, exactly. So that's the part that I think is also lacking in the conversation, right? Where the reality is Singapore is very small. Yeah. Yes, it's true, but we are packing ourselves with more and more people, and then we optimize our space and the whole thing. And if your house today, you can only afford a 3-bedroom or 4-bedroom, you go in, it's like, Macam, where's the imagination? Right? You got your own room, then you open your room, it's like, this one, put one study table. Right? That's it. Right? So a space constraint also informs or limits the imagination of people. And you cannot imagine kids running around. Right? You cannot imagine like, we have so many different things. So and you start to see it play out in all this TFR and all that. So TFR is a multifaceted problem, and I do think we need to revisit this whole and moving up the value chain of becoming a thinking economy and all that also fundamentally then allows us to have more space to live, because we don't need to pack the island with so many people because cheaper, faster, better. Right? So these are they are all intertwined.
And the 3-room today is very different from a 3-room.
It's very small.
Even though I saw a Straits Times study that they go by per person per square meter actually increase, but I just don't get the sense. I went to my friend's house recently, got into a new house. You literally have to walk sideways when you have to walk from one place, go past the dining table to the living room. It is that bad, and it's so to your point, it's really hard. How do you imagine your kids running around and playing?
But it's interesting, right? Because big cities like Hong Kong, Tokyo, they're also very small in space. But they do have fewer kids too. I
Also
suppose
a lot of
it's the same
problems.
thing. But innovation-wise, they are innovative. So I think the effect on TFR is there, but the effect on innovation
No, it's different. I think it's different. The effect of innovation is a cycle of capital stacking. Right. So that is
it's not so much the
that one is not so much
our environment that's causing it.
So that part is a function of too much cheap labor. I feel. So I'm of that view. Too much cheap labor is not incentivizing.
Because it's soft, right?
I mean, like you see like Japan, they have their own problems for sure. But because they are so like nativist, right? They are so against other people in their culture, right?
So they have to be very
everything they talk about, they do themselves, right? So the bus driver also Japanese, the person that bought the phone is Japanese, everything is Japanese, but then they all so then they really do everything. The toilet can wash itself.
Very automated.
It's everything.
And actually the innovation comes on the fact that there is no choice. Then I'll come up with it.
And the no choice parameter is because they don't want other people.
Self-imposed.
Right, they self-impose their parameter, so they don't want other people inside. So everything is a very homogeneous society. I mean, slowly these days they are opening out a little bit because really no choice. But because of that, then older, lesser young people, then all these things automate lah. Right? So what's stopping us from having all the toilet wash themselves? Right? And
cheap labor lor.
Yeah, exactly. Cheap labor, then don't need to install that one time, toilet that can wash itself. Right? Because the auntie, you can compress their wage and then
So I think we're shifting.
So
actually you can see this more and more.
And I hope
because labor is not as cheap anymore, and then it's expensive, and then the
great.
space is small. You can't have
It's great.
help or whatever.
It's great.
So people are thinking, Singaporeans are thinking, they're using all these gadgets and stuff. And I think it's that switch. That's why the next generation, I think, will be more similar to like your typical Tokyo-ish, Korean-ish, where they don't have labor to help you. Now I need to figure this out by myself. Then they get a bit sharper about it. If you look at it, actually, certain Western countries are the same. They don't have the labor option. Then I've got to be creative, right, and innovative. So they come up with all these different ways of doing it. I think somewhere, like to your point, we are a little bit behind.
And it's not just my view. In fact, a lot of the high flyers in the public service, they all know these things, right? So they have talked about it. But it's a political question. It's not so easy to implement. But I will support, so I will continue to support this. I think it's important. Okay, so any other things you want to share? If not, then maybe I can give you a bit of airtime to, talk a little bit about the Muslim situation. Because I was actually quite inspired when I heard the WP candidate. Alia Mata,
yes,
right?
yes,
So I was like, wow.
Yeah.
I jump up,
Yes.
I heard Sabo.
Yeah. Same. I had the same reaction.
I was like, what is good? He's saying he's putting this front and center.
For the context of listeners, what was it that resonated?
Maybe just share it.
I mean, that was what I wanted to get to, right? It's the most interesting manifesto because no one else talks about it. Also, it's not exactly a local issue. That's what people are saying, right? Which is Workers' Party wants to, in their manifesto, it says to recognize the state of Palestine. So Alia Mata was interesting because her introduction video said, I want to run because as a mom, I was affected when my child was in school and MOE had a certain way of talking about the Palestinian issue. And I think like it really combines all of the things we've talked about, right? Like, I mean, we talk a lot about the economy, but I think people see Palestine as such a far removed issue because it's more of a moral issue. How does it affect us, right? It doesn't affect our economy, not directly, not that people can see, but it's interesting to see that Workers' Party has put this up in the manifesto. And I don't know if it's because they are aware of the changing demographic or the changing mindsets of younger voters and how to a lot of younger voters this is an important issue and also to the Malay Muslim community. So if I expand further to the community, right, that's why the Tampines fight between Masagos and Faisal is also quite a big thing because I think Faisal has spoken up quite a bit about the Palestinian issue and Minister Masagos being the Minister of Muslim Affairs, there is this sentiment that he's not speaking up enough about Palestine. So there's another it does seem like Palestine is it is a point.
It's on the table.
Yes, it is on the table when it comes to voting.
Yeah. And even Madam Halima said so much more.
Right, yes.
Right.
Yes,
So
yes.
it's
But this is what I thought. I thought with WP was very that's the thing, see. The impression I got from WP this time was they really, really tried very hard to show that they
not
know.
PAP like, is it?
Yeah, no. that they know what
the ground
wants.
Yeah.
All the conversations, all the talk that was spoken, you really get the feeling that there was the imaging that they were trying to convey. Whether it was or not, I won't know. But the impression I got when just watching all their pre, the rally, all their little videos, I thought, okay, firstly, comms wise, the videos were very sleek and very nice.
I think it's the best one.
Yeah.
And I actually brought up again and again, right? I said, I like it.
Why can't everybody be like that?
Yeah,
You don't even have to go to a video. Look at the backdrop, the back wall during the rally, you can tell it.
But my point is, voters have evolved.
Right,
Even the auntie uncles who stay in my neighborhood, they can recognize this is nice. This is how it should. So again, to my point, WP seems to be very aware that if I can showcase this is what the voters want and this is what they're talking about, this is how they feel, I think this is where they're trying to show that they are different.
Right.
Because otherwise then they become just another party.
And it's a clear mark that they have political courage.
Yeah.
It really takes a lot of courage to put something out like this.
True.
Yeah.
So what are they asking for?
Okay.
Manifesto?
So basically for Singapore to recognise the state of Palestine. So I know there are arguments about, how is this relevant to us, blah blah blah. But I think why it's not meant to be seen as weird is because I cannot remember the exact number, but somewhere around 170, 180 countries in the world have already recognized Palestine. And Singapore agrees to the two-state solution. So to have a two-state solution, you need to recognize Palestine as a state first. So that is only the right action to do. And the fact is that Minister Vivian Balakrishnan said that Singapore will recognize Palestine in due time.
Say it,
yes. So I guess Workers' Party is just saying that this is the right time because this is what the people want.
So a bit more like, okay, we heard it and we're going to take action.
Yes,
And it's true. It actually made me think like, okay, then Tampines is in play. Because Tampines has a very big Malay Muslim population. I think 25%.
Almost 25. So
that was the reason why they went for Tampines.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. So hopefully we can do one podcast about this.
Hopefully.
Right.
Teaser.
Teaser. Focus on the Malay Muslim community and maybe kind of showcase the difference, right, between Faisal and Masagos, right? Because to be fair, I think Tampines is a very well-run town.
It is,
right. Our Tampines hub is beautiful, and I think it's the first of its kind, right? Last time the swimming pool like macam there, and then the track,
stadium,
closed, right? Then after that they stack everything. It's very nice. The old library is shit. They shift it in. It's very beautiful. So the whole area in the heart of Tampines is very well built, right? But
it's probably the only town with 3 MRT stations.
Yeah. It's true. But I am of the view that Tampines population is one population that is surviving and not thriving.
Oh.
So they are the working there's a lot of working poor in Tampines, right? So and it's not unique to Tampines. It's a lot of
other neighborhoods.
A lot of new towns that become old towns. This thing always exists because the new town, all the young people are going, right? Then whoever that succeed, right, all move out, right? Because they want to move closer to town, right? Then whoever that's remaining, they all just trying to make it work. Right. So with so much voter crowd that is like that. And you know, I don't know how is the cost of I do believe the cost of living will have an outsized impact on this group. And then plus the 25% Malay community, which really cares about the Palestine situation.
But actually, if you look at it, looking at all the manifestos, I thought this was really one of the few that was an international issue. And
there's Myanmar inside also, by the way.
There was that?
Yeah, further down. There's another one.
But I think this is good because this then also shows you, does it then mean that, you know, instead of just the bread and butter issues, are the younger voters actually looking at more international issues?
I think so, you know. In my social circle, this is nothing. Nobody cares. Right? Like the older people really just want to keep the lights off. Like can cari makan.
How to pay bill,
I just want to pay bills, right? But
so then the question is,
statement.
Do you think that
for Gen Zs, these
I
things are very important.
Moral issues are very important to us, right? And I think it's precisely because we've grown in very comfortable circumstances. Therefore, we are privileged enough to look beyond. But we're also global citizens. We grew up with social media at hand. So we see things happening elsewhere. And then we start to wonder about things that are happening in the country. So things like, you know, disability, special needs, gender.
Those are all surfacing.
Yeah, it's normal to us, second nature to us. So I think Workers' Party is just realizing that, yes, quite a sizable segment of the population, to them this is second nature already. So we have to keep up with the times. We have to talk about it. So I think it's just
that's why I liked it, because I realized this is what it is going to be in the next elections. Because now we're not looking at the day-to-day survival issues, right? All these points about the equality that we want. There was a couple on special needs which I really like. And I thought maybe this is it. This is where we start changing as a nation. You know, interestingly, PM Wong always talks about we're changing as a nation, but then the manifestos should reflect that, right? And so that's why I thought WP is quite brave, and also they're leading this change to say that well, let's look at the next batch of voters, not just elections, next batch will probably look even more internationally.
Do you see the amount of people that are watching the WP?
I saw.
Live
Among all the parties, they had the highest views.
And so this is actually something that we should take note of, right? And it's always the same thing. They always say Singapore is tapped into the international scene. It's so important.
Then when we want to talk about international problems, say no, this is not a problem. It's local.
So it's really that whole thing of where are we going with this? And I think we're going in that direction where it's not just our bread and butter, it's also our values. What are we seeing? And I think that's, to me, you can see it's moving.
Interesting. Okay, great. That was a good discussion. You know, definitely one of the more left field from what TFC usually covers, which is what I wanted, right? Because if not, if it would just be another housing, healthcare,
money,
which is important,
money, which is what's happening tomorrow. So tomorrow I'm getting Alex, the president of the Singapore Actuary Society, and also Tan Eun Se, a very famous psychologist from NUS. I think he has left NUS, but he's still doing something at NUS. So he's one of those earlier writers of social mobility, right? And is working very closely with HDB. So we will cover the heavy classic TFC topic of healthcare and housing. So we
don't make us sound so fluffy.
This is important because life in Singapore needs to move beyond, like money, everything money. But TFC was built on this money. But because it's a GE special, I think we should move beyond just money. So thank you for spending time with us.
Having
appreciate it. Any last things you want to share with our audience, or where can they connect with you if they really enjoyed this discussion?
We're on Instagram, Lepak Conversations. And we have a niche on Malay Muslim community, but our core value is actually allyship, which means we want everyone to be part of the conversation.
Nice.
So check us out there.
Awesome.
Mine is Mom's at work, but we don't always have conversations like that.
But they have a very big mom community.
And if you want to, you're a mom who's really struggling to return to work or find flexible work arrangements, please reach out to us. We always will try and support you.
Awesome. So with that, I want to close by thanking our friends from Community and Position 5 that is supporting our live stream. Okay, so you see everything. Actually, live stream is very hard to do. There are many people behind the scenes getting all sorts of things done. So I want to thank them, and I also want to thank our friends at the Golden Nuggets podcast because they also came in to help us on some of these different live stream time slots. So yes, thank you. And if you like, share, subscribe, put in the comment section. We will keep covering. And tomorrow will be big, and Jeremy's coming on Sunday. And
Inject Bitcoin.
Yeah,
Bitcoin.
In the house.
SDP, WP, they're all coming on Monday, Tuesday. So the bigger things are coming, and hopefully we can do one special focus on the Malay Muslim community, because I do think the biggest showdown of this election is Tampines GRC.
Yeah.
That's what I think, not West Coast. I think Tampines is the biggest showdown. So it will be fun to do something closer to the end. So yeah, let's see. With that, thank you. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.